As of late, I've been really wanting to catch up on a lot of classic films that I've never seen before, as well as diving headfirst into the filmographies of some iconic directors. And right now, I'm starting with Akira Kurosawa by watching one of his most acclaimed films, Ran. So, let's get into it. Ran is a combination of a William Shakespeare adaptation of King Lear with Japanese history, combining for a true epic that absolutely deserves to be watched. I have never seen an Akira Kurosawa film before until now, and a lot of people say that this is probably not the best one to start with, but I jumped headfirst in. And that might have been against my better nature, but I saw so many pretty images from this film that I was just compelled to watch it. So I bought a DVD copy. I couldn't find a Blu-ray near me, and I have now entirely seen it, and I have to say I'm quite blown away by this film. I'm someone who over the years has become really fascinated with William Shakespeare's work. I particularly love Macbeth. Everyone knows a lot of his stories: Hamlet, Romeo and Juliet, as I mentioned, Macbeth. King Lear is one that I've not heard about too often, but it does feel very similar to Macbeth, and as I said, that's my favorite Shakespeare story, so having some similarities there lent for a much more interesting watch for me. The film mostly follows Lord Hitatora, who is this really powerful leader who is kind of at the end of his road and wants to transfer his power to his sons. They basically take that power and, like the title suggests, ran with it. They go too far. They completely hostile take over his whole area, and it leaves Lord Hitatora feeling so betrayed to the point where he starts becoming mad. This is where you're going to get some of the most beautiful shots that you can see in cinema. This thing is technically so significant, and I'm sure has inspired countless filmmakers over the years. The use of color is almost unlike anything I have ever seen before. Combined with its just insane practicality, there's these grand battles, and you know, we're in the 80s here, so there's no real visual effects here. These are real people on horses, massive sets, massive production value that you just rarely find, and it brings a level of authenticity to it that is just so hard to come by. This hostile takeover scene is probably the most brilliant scene in the whole entire film, and is the one that gets used a lot in images and compilations. The scene where Hitatora leaves his tower with the look on his face is an image that will haunt your mind as he's dealing with this betrayal on epic proportions, as all of his sons just had so much greed and just wanted to take over. And as we dive deeper into this movie, you start to see a lot of brilliant character work on display as we get characters trying to manipulate others, ones that have ulterior motives that try to gain any semblance of power so that they can get exactly what they want. One of these fascinating characters, I'm sorry if I don't pronounce this the exact right way, but Lady Kaide is fantastic in this film. This character is so manipulative, and you don't really understand her true intentions until basically the final scene, as it culminates in this massive tragedy. Lord Hitatora, throughout this entire film, is trying to deal with this madness. He's kind of forgetting everything that came before. He's so betrayed by what happened that he's just completely lost, and it frustrates a lot of characters because they want him back. They need him back to be that leader again, but he just doesn't have that in him anymore. I won't spoil the film, but the complete arc of this character is just so tragic, once again on epic proportions, as you see this character fall apart, try and find themselves again, and then what happens at the very end is so haunting. The whole way around, it really ties everything up in the most tragic way possible, but it works. It's effective because it's communicated so well throughout the entire duration of the story. There's also these further battle sequences. The one in the third act, once again, really epic, as we get a lot of practicality. You get a lot of people on horses, hundreds upon hundreds of people on horses, and it just looks magnificent. As I mentioned earlier, the use of color is absolutely stunning. It pops. Doesn't matter if I'm watching the DVD version or if I watched a brilliant 4K version. It looks stunning. But I think just what really fascinates me with this story is those Shakespearean elements. I think the thirst for power and what people will do to achieve that has always been an interesting element to Shakespeare's work, and it's beautifully handled in Ran. I think the way that these characters interact with each other, the way that they try and get power, and what they do with it is just so fascinating. And Ran handles that as good as any other amazing Shakespeare adaptation. This doesn't shy away from brutality either. There are some graphic, haunting scenes in this, but Kurosawa knows exactly what to point the camera at so that we get a full understanding of what's going on without it being excessive. I really like the way that Kurosawa is just so patient and knows that you're just so eager for some of these moments to happen, and he gives it to you just at the right time. As I already mentioned, the film ends on a real haunting note, and those final few stills of this film will always linger with me. I just think it was beautifully handled in telling this tale. It doesn't give you exactly what you're hoping for if you want a real happy ending, but I think it was the most effective possible way to wrap up this film. Kurosawa at this point had done so many classics previously, so he really knew what he was doing here. I would say in terms of just some minor issues I had with the film, there were some pacing issues I felt in the first act. It just wasn't grabbing my attention quite like I wanted it to until we got to that epic battle scene. The groundwork that it lays beforehand, while essential, wasn't as engaging to me as the rest of the film when we start building that momentum. I also thought a lot of the sons themselves weren't the most fleshed out of characters. They're very basic in their execution, but when Kurosawa wants to dive deep into particular characters like Lady Kaede or Lord Hitatora, he really goes there for the most effective punches possible, but I probably would have liked to have seen even more from the sons. Overall, Ran is obviously a classic. I won't be the first one to tell you that. There are esteemed film critics that have already covered this film many years ago, but I just want to say I really love this film, and if you haven't explored Akira Kurosawa before, I highly recommend you do. There's still so much more for me to discover. I haven't seen a lot of his most notable films. This is the first one of his that I've actually seen, and I was hooked with the way that he decided to tell the story and the visual grandeur on display. I'm going to give Ran a strong 4.5 out of 5. Once again, highly recommend you check it out straight away and try to find the most crisp possible version you can. Either a 4K or even a Blu-ray, because this would be magnificent in that format. I really am a little bit disappointed that I just cannot see this in theaters anymore, because this thing would look magnificent on the big screen, especially with how it sounds and the beauty on display. The magnificent images are truly epic. There's very few films out there that really live up to that word epic. A lot really try to do that, but Ran definitely lives up to that. Anyway, those are my thoughts towards Ran. Let me know what you think about this film in the comments below. How many times have you seen this already? I'd love to know your thoughts. I just think it's just so fascinating going back and seeing where so many filmmakers that I watch today got their influences from. Kurosawa is a very famed director in this space, so finally getting to explore his work and seeing how he inspires directors like Martin Scorsese just is so fascinating to me. So definitely check this one out. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.